Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Daily Combat Podcast with the double biceps. It is in the contract a legal requirement crazy. Every single time we appear on camera. We're just satisfying the lawyers, ticking the boxes. It is Hollywood Matt Connolly here, the Daily Combat Podcast, the co-host, co-founder, co-wearer of clothes, co-breather of air. In this very room, it is in fact the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Cristo. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. There's that my favourite move. It's trumping the moustache twirling at the moment for me. It's the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award, and there it is, the illustrious trophy there, held by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. And he's put his nomination in already for this year, a front runner at this point. And it is Dave Stockbridge. Welcome to your own show.
Thank you very much, Hollywood Matt Connolly. And what I almost said, Connolly, Matt Connolly.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll respond to anything. Yeah. Even Matt Condomely.
Matt Condomely. That's my favourite. That's my favourite variation of the name. But have you been doing something special with the biceps over recent times?
I try to flex them harder every week so they look bigger.
Right.
And I wear a different, smaller T-shirt each
Slightly
week.
Smaller.
Yeah. That's the secret. Yeah.
So it's a good strategy. It's paying off. Definitely paying dividends. Well, thank you very much for that very, very warm introduction. And of course, today on the podcast, we have ourselves a very, very, one of the most interesting men in arm wrestling, that's for sure. So I'm going to go through this introduction because I know Matt really likes this one. So he is your former Latvian, former European, former Australian.
Still Latvian.
That's what I keep saying.
And current AWE heavyweight champion, it's Guntars Baikovs, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to the podcast, Guntars.
Yes, good to be here.
And still, we can confirm that for any doubters out there, you are very definitely still Latvian.
I feel much better after you said that.
It has been a bone of contention whenever I have said that, because I find it difficult to say your name without all of the prefacing prior to the preamble. It leads up to that. And
all the titles you want to include.
All the
rich history, and
so
enormously rich history.
Exactly.
And Matt's point of conjecture there, of course, is that he's still Latvian. He's still Latvian. So I'm glad you confirmed that for us here on the podcast today. I mean, it has been a journey, and you're now 50 years old. Is that correct, or nearly 50?
Yeah, no, not
Formerly
correct.
50.
No, it's a 51.
51 now.
Yes,
So
yes.
51. Congratulations. I mean,
Thank you. I made this far.
Yeah.
You're in great shape. And would you agree best shape of your life, or was there a time when there was optimal Guntars that you reflect upon and think, oh my goodness, look at that young strapping man? Or are you at the top of your game now? Do you feel stronger than you ever have?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's the difficult question. Certainly, when I look back, there is no time when I say, "Oh, that was the man." No, I don't think so.
So maybe the best is still to come.
Yeah, I'm dubious about that.
You seem less enthusiastic.
Yes. It's 51.
Yeah.
No, it takes its toll. Things get more difficult as you age, as you go through life, as you probably know. Maybe you don't know it yet, but you'll get there. You will understand what I'm talking about.
And so,
but no, in a way, yes, I think I've been blessed with a good health. So thanks God for that, and looking forward to what else is to come.
Well, you're certainly in great physical shape, and when are you already setting up excuses for AWE too? Is that what's going on? This whole podcast is about
we try to.
It's your podcast. It's not mine. You initiated it.
We've already made up our excuses for AWE too. Don't worry. Any deficiencies on our end are already well and truly published. So, from your perspective, I mean, that's a deep, rich history in arm wrestling, and obviously a career at the highest level nationally, across the continent, and of course it's a career that continues. Where did it all start for you?
I know whenever I listen to you guys, I kind of want to correct you and bring it you down to the earth and get rid of those elevated language.
We try to compliment
you know, I know you try to compliment, but it's kind of not fair.
Well, there's a lot of young arm wrestlers out there that would feel like if they'd been a national champion and a continental champion and
it
held
wouldn't
the
make much
AWE
difference.
belt,
It wouldn't, when you get there, it wouldn't make much difference.
So they should maybe stop trying now. So
No, they just need to refocus.
Okay.
No expectations. When you get there, there's not like an ultimate pot of gold hidden or whatever. It's do it for fun.
okay.
Do it for your hobby. Do it for your enjoyment, and don't expect if I make this career, then my life will count. Or no.
Yeah.
No, there are more important things than that.
So what got you motivated to compete when you just got started?
Oh yeah, that's so a friend of mine. He actually had the same name, Guntars, and
There's two.
by some mystery of the Almighty, he also is a Lutheran pastor in Latvia right now.
Really?
When I was in high school, so he was running discourse.
Ah.
And so we thought how to attract people, how to make it more entertaining. And we had this idea, okay, let's make an arm wrestling table. And let's challenge anyone who would come to Disco. So if they can win against representative of Disco, they can get a money prize. So I would be representative of Disco. And as far as I can remember, we kept our money.
Yeah,
So
it remained undefeated.
but it was, yes, it was fun. Sometimes 20, 30 matches per night. And
Wow.
it's kinda cool.
And had you
So bad for your elbows. So bad for your elbows.
and had you arm wrestled before? Like, what gave you that thought to have an arm wrestling challenge in order to attract people?
Is there any person on this planet who hasn't arm wrestled before?
Yeah.
So yes, we obviously did it in school, and as far back as I can remember, I always did quite well. We had some guys who were 2 years older in our class, and still I would come on top of those encounters. So I felt quite good about it. And at that age, you're looking for challenges. You're looking for the next strong guy whom you can take down. And I guess that's how it started. I had a few friends who dragged me into gym training, and that complemented, built it up. And
So the gym training came after the arm wrestling began? Or it all happened around the same time? Were you getting interested in getting stronger and challenging yourself?
It wasn't like a professional choice or deliberate choice, or I'm going to focus on arm wrestling. It was just a thing we did then.
And was there like an early guru or somebody that was in the club at the time, or who was around there who was guiding you, or was it just very much you're just learning as you're going along and making it up and just trying to figure the whole sport out without too much instruction?
Yes, pain and hurting elbows were your best master to guide you. and it's 1980s.
Yep.
So we had no knowledge at all and no information. It's actually a funny story. It's 10 years ahead then, and mid 1990s. So myself and another guy who later became a first president of Latvian Arm Wrestling Federation. And so we were two top guys in Latvia. At least we didn't know anyone who could beat us. And so we thought, okay, it's time for international explorations. We're gonna take them all, one after another. So Golden Bear, have you heard about this competition? That was huge. It's well organized and well funded competition in Moscow during 1990s, which brought international guests, and they had a significant money prize and so on. And so we thought, that's it. That's where we're going, and we did we did go and literally everyone, small guys, big guys, everyone just was
beating us down.
Yes, yes. Good. So that was the first time coach of Lithuanian team, Kostas Arhipovas, he actually took us aside and to his number. We had a kind of good conversation, and he taught us basics of arm wrestling technique. That was the first time. Time when someone from one side said, actually, guys, there is more than just strength and focus, and that's not mid 1990s.
So it was like 10 years
and
into
after no, you can't count it in that way. 10 years into it's not like we did it regularly or train it all the time. It's from we did not have anything organized by that time. That's when organization basically started mid 1990s in Latvia, and So there was no clubs or there were random competitions. Someone put on something with here and someone put on something there, and that's it. And then after we had this first exposure, that's I think when progress began very rapidly. So you realize it's more to it than simply and was strong
and was there much by way of opportunities to get any guidance or mentoring or training? Because of course this is all just coming out of the Iron Curtain's just crumbled, and the internet's not really a thing as yet,
not yet.
And information's really hard to find. So where did you find your arm wrestling information and how to get technically more proficient?
Oh, through competition, mixing with guys, all the after pool, all the chatting, and after parties. I think were a much bigger thing back then. There was much more flavor, different flavor to after parties, and arm wrestling was part of it. And
more women back then, is that what you're saying?
More flavor to arm wrestling
flavor.
parties. Yes,
I see why you stuck with it.
And that's why yes, and that's where you would see different guys on table doing different things. Okay, that's something new. So what sort of grip is that? What sort of angle is it? And so you would talk with them, and they would show and explain, and that's yeah. And we had a couple guys. Same friend of mine I mentioned, Modris Stalgevich, who became the first president of Arm Wrestling Federation in Latvia, and so he was very much into understanding all the details. And I think still, even today, he would be kind of above almost everyone in his technical knowledge. And and he was very helpful out in developing a Latvian team.
And when was the first time that you felt like there was some kind of progress after picking up some of these skills? How long did it take before you were again?
Very quickly. Once you pick up those skills, that's it. That's reprogram your brain how to actually do it, and then you can start progress quickly.
And did you then start practicing more regularly? Is that when you really fell in love with the sport, or was it always just on the peripheral to what you were doing?
Yeah, it's always been just hobby.
Yeah, right.
And one of ways to hang out with guys and go to international trips and have some fun and just to have a good time. And since I remember myself, I always liked strength sports, and that was an enjoyable part. And with arm wrestling, regular training. Probably by mid-1990s, Latvians began to have regular trainings in different locations, but I wasn't the most regular guy to attend because I'm kind of weakling in arm wrestling. With my elbows are usually sore after practices, and I would take a big gaps between. So, yeah, I'm not a real arm wrestler. That's what I'm saying.
You're just the heavyweight champion.
Latvian, European,
former. Yes. All the former things.
And carinated, but it's just fun. And so when you say, what were the other sports that captured your imagination when you were younger?
Imagine it's 1990s. I think everyone had a poster on their wall. Can you guess whose poster?
For me, it was a Lamborghini and a chick draped over.
Pamela Anderson.
Pamela Anderson?
No.
No? Okay.
His first name is Arnold, second is Schwarzenegger.
That guy, right, yeah.
Yes,
well, Matt's still got that poster in his room. So Tegan's a big fan of it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in Teach or Ortiz is the other one on the other wall.
Yeah. Anyway, that was something for us and something like out of different world, and as a young teenage boy, so attractive, and all the physicality and strength, and so we really I skipped a lot of classes in high school because of
going to the gym.
That I hope my teachers are not listening to this now.
Not listening. I've got to get a pump. You don't understand. I'm
Yes,
calming
yes,
15
yes.
times a day. I don't have time for geography.
That's it.
And so you would, for you, it was largely a social thing or a reason to get out with your mates and have
And I
have a
obviously
good
was
time.
good in. I was quite good with it, and obviously. And, so you like to do things you are good at, right?
Yeah.
That gives you sort of certain satisfaction and sore elbows as well.
And when was your breakthrough competition when the rest of the world found out about how good you were?
Oh, I have no idea.
Are we still waiting
have
for
they?
that?
Maybe
Was
we're
it
still waiting
AWE
for
one?
it.
Was it?
Yeah, probably. Yes, most watched one could be AWE one.
Well, it's really interesting for you because you've got this whole history of really like a top class career, and it's kind of before that period that arm wrestling really took off, and so a lot of people that have been drawn to arm wrestling, like us, for instance, through seeing it on YouTube, and there's that whole almost generation of now fans that have found the sport that way. But you haven't had a presence in that online space during that time, and you haven't been competing actively during that period either. But then you emerge out of nowhere and take out the heavyweight title. So, I know there's an exclamation mark there. So
Was there a question anywhere there? Or?
There's a lot of statements.
yes, but
A lot of confusion. So what is going on?
But what was it like when you first came to Australia? How old were you when you first came to Australia?
10 years ago, it would be 51, 41.
Okay, right. So 10 years, and what was it part of being in the church that you moved out for that reason, or it was?
So you're asking why am I in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you allowed to disclose this?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. It's strange. It's
So
strange.
not still a state secret
It's-
somewhere. No,
You are not going to put this online, right?
no one's ever
no,
going to hear
of
it.
course not.
That's
That's
right.
good, that's
Even if
so
we do
good.
put it online.
No one's going to watch it anyway. That's it. And even if they watch, they're not going to believe you.
Right. Yes.
You have the history and making up stories. I come from. I grew up in Soviet Union. No Christian connections in my family, and no idea what Christian faith is, so I'm a so-called adult convert, someone who came to faith in already my later years, and that's a separate story. But anyway, I was ordained as a pastor in Latvia. So ordained, it's the process where you are given authority to preach and teach in congregation, and authorized that you have been trained well enough that you are not going to make up things, but you are going to teach only what's proper. And then I was suggested to continue studies in US. So we went to US, and with the idea to go back to Latvia, but somehow different things change in church and in society and so on, in our personal situation. So one morning we just woke up in Barossa, in Australia.
Oh.
And it really wasn't like a
wormhole or a
it really
portal?
wasn't. Yeah, it really wasn't like my first preference or choice or anything. And that's been the story of my life last kind of 20 years. Someone is just guiding my life, and I'm going with the flow to A1, AWE1, AWE2, and so that's how we found ourselves in Barossa, serving a couple of congregations, and yes, one of points in job description for me in my calling was I have to compete in arm wrestling competitions in Australia.
It was part of that, was it?
Of course not. Why do you make such a serious favor?
Is it like
No,
it's
can't-
like Matt
you
Connolly's
can't
thing with the
tell.
biceps?
It looks serious at all times.
There is a grain of
I believe
No,
you.
listen.
You're ordained after all. Why would I not believe you?
Yes, I promise to tell you all truth. No. So what happened? In States, we lived in St. Louis, and from time to time, I would join a group of guys in Illinois. They had a training place, and I think I never even competed in during that time, but it was literally a couple of weeks before we left for Australia. There was a Illinois Open Championship, and I was told that was a largest state championship in state at that time. So guys were going there. They said, "Would you like to come?" And I said, "Yeah, have a free time in my hands. Why not then?" So I did really well in that comp, and I guess surprised some of the top guys in US.
And had you prepared at all, or did you just turn up on the day? And
No, I've been training with those guys.
Oh, okay,
not like
so-
very intensely, but I still been keeping myself in shape. And so Josh Handland, you know his name. I don't know. Sorry, Josh. Forgive me. I just don't know how to pronounce your name. But so he interviewed me and asked, "So where did they come from and where I'm going and will we see you again?" And I said, "No, I'm leaving this country. That's done. Enough." And where are you going? Australia. So before I even landed, Australian guys saw that video and got in touch with me.
And they were waiting for
and
you.
got in touch with me. And so when I started my ministry in Barossa, I had a mentor appointed and one of retired pastors. And so I said to him, so what do you think? Should I go with this or no? Because I did not have kind of really preference. And he said, oh, come on, this is such a kind of great opportunity. You will mix with people you otherwise wouldn't meet and have all these opportunities and chances and so on, and go for it then. So that's how it unfolded.
And how quickly after you coming to Australia did you find yourself national champion?
Same year. Yeah, but again, you see, it's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair because all Australians are weak.
No, not true.
No, not true.
Not true.
Just not
but
stronger
you
than
are.
you.
But at the sport, arm wrestling was really in the very beginning in Australia.
Yeah.
And as you will know, it takes really years to build up that arm wrestling strength. So you may even be well versed in technique, but it takes years to build up that strength. And so I think I just happened to be here during that gap time when that strength was still coming, so I could benefit from it.
Very interesting. And what returned you to? So you came to Australia first year. You're national champion, held that title for how many years? Before vacation,
I didn't compete. I didn't compete every year, and
just whenever you turned up, you were the champion, though. Pretty much. Okay, far too modest. So
till probably till the end of decade. I think Ryan Scott took me down. Then Lachlan Adair took me down, and so yeah. So when I heard you telling guys those incredibly beautiful and pleasant lies which you told in one of those stories, Guntars, he was this incredibly strong guy. There's no competition for him, and he was just bored, and he said, I'll retire for a while, and
just to give it a rest.
Oh man, this sounds so nice, but not true.
It's not true. So you got beaten twice and then gave up. So it's easy.
Yeah, that's it.
But I mean, I guess
what happened? Where I sort of stepped out. We used to have a training sessions in Barossa for quite a few years, and that's probably most intense time I've trained for arm wrestling when it comes to table time. And so we had a good group of guys and girls, and literally every one of them would place top 3 in competitions when we would go anywhere. But a situation changed in my congregation, so my weekly routine began to look differently, and I couldn't. I had to make a choice regarding hosting those sessions, and that's when I sort of dropped off the grid. Then,
and what captured your imagination once again and made you want to test yourself one more time on the table?
Of course, you know the answer, right? You've been telling it all the time. Mario.
We were probably just lying.
That was you.
It was Mario.
It was.
You know these funny sayings about arm wrestling that you kind of you can't quit. It's like a sect. Once you are in, you kind of they will chase you down and drag you back and
like the mafia.
Yes. And no, I think when I drop off the grid, in a sense, there was time when other things took priorities, and there was no time to do that. But no, I kept training. So my 2 sons grew up and they wanted to go to gym, and so they dragged me to gym, and I kept up sort of my form, and I actually like gym training better than competitions.
Right.
Yeah. And you can measure your progress. You can always come up with new exercises, and it is kind of so much fun. Anyway, I think it was 2 years ago or a year ago, or you had the Apex competition, and then you invited already me to come, and I just couldn't make it, and in a sense sort of had to pull out at the last moment, and felt a bit bad, and I think I felt owing you a little bit. And
it's okay.
Right. Thank you. You could also say, I forgive you. That's fine.
Yes, we forgive you. We would have loved to have you there, but if you couldn't make it, then that's okay too.
No, we just
I completely forgot about it.
We just Yes, we postponed it by a year and made it with a bang, right?
That's
yes,
right.
that's
Right.
it. That's it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's right. Yeah,
So there
that's
was
indeed-
no particular reason. Perhaps having more time on hands, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Also being in Adelaide, yeah, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were in Barossa, you were sort of disconnected, and to get anywhere, it still would take some time. Now, when we live in Adelaide, that's different.
Mm-hmm. And what was it about Mario that kind of drew you back and made you think, well, there's a challenge?
Was it his beard? It's usually the beard.
Yeah.
Is it just the look of him? Did you just think, that guy shouldn't be a champion?
Was it? We were disappointed, and I still feel pain on your behalf when he was supposed to come for the.
This is where we ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, the Titans Open tournament, and he had.
Brothers.
Yeah. No, because Mario was going to be part of the Titans Open tournament that we ran last year, and we'd said, hey, Guntars, if Mario will be there. He's
It was
one
meant
of
to
the
be
best
an
in his-
ambush. It was meant to be an ambush.
much, yeah.
We were setting it up.
That's right. And he'd said, you can use my image on the posters and stuff like that, and I'm keen. And then sort of last minute, he had to work and he couldn't make it. Which we understand, that's just life. But unfortunately, you had arrived on the day ready to go, and then it was the unfortunate news of Mario was actually not coming along.
And all credit to you, because there was $1,000 prize money on the table for that particular tournament, and it would have had that envelope would have had your name written all over it if you just stood beside the table. But you, very fortunately, you'd let some young fella walk away with the prize, and it was very gracious of you on that occasion. But having said that, I'm sure there would have been a lot of young guys keen to test themselves against the great Guntars.
Yeah. Keep building that legend. Great Guntars.
The great Guntars. Yeah. We're gonna.
From our perspective, though, because as you said, the sport is growing and it's in its infancy in Australia.
Not anymore.
No, it has. It is definitely risen.
It's really maturing.
Enormously, yeah, for sure, and continues to.
Because all that, probably we can say all the top guys been in sport already for good 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
So that's what it roughly takes to get there. So
That's right.
you can still progress, but it will be
maybe
bit-
longer
yes.
for Matt.
I've started going the opposite way.
It's already started his descent from that.
Yes, but so when I started in the sport, it was about 4 years ago, and it was with Tim Graham, who was running it out of his garage in his shed on his driveway, and
As I'd imagine, a lot of clubs around the world have been run.
yeah, that's
started.
right.
Yeah,
That's right. And there was about 6 or 7 guys, and they would always reference you, the mysterious Guntars who lives out in the middle of
mysterious
nowhere.
Did
Former
you hear
Latvian.
he used to be Latvian.
That's right. And eventually we moved into the community centre, and now it's become quite a big club. And I think on Sunday just gone we had about 40 people there. It was really busy. It was fantastic. So it is growing significantly here in Australia. And you had sort of stepped away before I got into the sport, and so
You were always that mystery.
Yes.
Always that
That's
figure
right.
behind the curtain.
And it's like, you could say, okay, well, this person's number one
the
in
great
the state.
ancients.
That's right. But really, he has never faced Guntars. He's the man, And we did come up and to your place one time to have a training
a
session
couple
up
years
there,
ago. Yeah.
just to sort of see where we sat, and we did not sit well.
Legend has it you were just warming up with doing push-ups on your fingers.
Fingertip push-ups in between destroying all of us. Which was great, because it's like, well, that's the
So
level
to be
that...
fair, probably I was 20 kilograms above any of you.
Yeah, well,
In my way. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
you see, that makes difference.
it does. But so does not being able to get your hand around your hand either.
So why is it that you think that Latvians occupied a disproportionate amount of the top athletes in the sport at various weight classes currently?
Yeah,
Is there something in the DNA?
Same you can say about Georgians, for example.
Georgians, yeah, same, yeah.
Yeah, Ukrainians.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't have explanation, and
Cultural?
probably it has to do with genetics, and I think it's. So you can only progress within a certain framework, and which sort of built in you, and I know people come to arm wrestling trainings, and we had a lot of laugh with the Tim Graham. He said, "Okay, 5 years. No, I'll take you all 5 years." So after 5 years, we tested, and he said, "You see, little finger moved. Yeah, you see." And perhaps he put in more effort than I ever have done. But it's what you are born with. It's in a sense
That's right.
determines a lot, as in every sport. So
Exactly.
I could never be a good sprinter. So I had
Or a jockey.
friends.
Or a jockey.
Yeah,
Well,
terrible
Yes,
jockey.
yes.
Terrible
Yeah.
jockey.
Or
Yeah.
maybe an elephant. Yeah. But that's it. You operate with gifts you have
Yes.
been given, and
Tim, one of
and
Tim's,
even
Well, I've got to tell you, this is funny. One of Tim's favourite things to do, he would say it when he would get the opportunity to train with you, that he would give absolutely everything he had, and you would sort of resist it quite comfortably. And then as soon as you would start to win, he would just immediately give up. Just so you would never get an opportunity to work, and you would get annoyed, and he'd be like, ah. Every time you'd sort of put some pressure, you would just be like, ah.
all our little dirty pleasures, right? That's Tim's.
So, how is it for you, having kind of grown up in the sport in a time where it didn't receive the attention that it does now, and to see the sport now becoming almost semi-professional for those guys at the top level, and where athletes that are starting their journey today can perhaps expect to have a professional career in the fullness of time?
So what was the question? How do you see it?
How do you like? How is it for you seeing the sport go from basically a hobby to maybe a mainstream sport?
Yeah. It seems that it's a repetitive story of my life from time to time, that I'm born too early or in the wrong place or something. And if that was,
do you feel like you could have been Mr. Olympia if you were born in 1925?
No, probably no.
I do.
Probably.
Probably not, but it's a possibility. You could have beaten Bill Pell.
Yeah. Distracting my thoughts. I'm trying kind of to reflect on. It's certainly internet and that whole environment has changed the sport enormously, and I think it's recognizability of arm wrestling. I think suddenly it's one of kind of reasonably popular sports that people watch and follow. And
so, do you feel if you were 20 years younger, you might have been able to
probably
catch
I
that
would.
wave?
Yeah, probably I would be tempted to devote much more time to it, and especially now you have big competitions with even money prize involved and things like that. And no, I think it comes with a different negative downsides. When you want to squeeze the last drop of potential out of you, you use all the possible means.
Yeah.
Good means or not good means, and so on. I think that's a downside of sport, probably, that we are going to see more often, and in especially commercial competitions. And it's not that it wasn't there 20, 30 years ago, but I don't think people took it so seriously.
Yeah.
Suddenly, when money was online or something like that, or publicity or potential career, that's suddenly a different weight.
And it is somewhat distressing when you do see people that are thought to be the best in the sport kind of losing breath, before they can finish their match, and
Oxygen tanks being
needing oxygen tanks and that type of thing. So where people, like you say, are really pushing the edges of their genetic potential and bring themselves to a state that's maybe not entirely healthy because of the prize money's on the line, or the prestige is there, or the attention's there, and people want to occupy that top.
Or sometimes
position.
strange rules are there, like who first gets till four wins. It's kind of crazy. It's potentially 7 matches.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
I may die after the third one.
Just of old age, not even a fatigue.
Exactly. Just by natural causes.
Well, first of three, it just seemed to go too quickly for us in the first event. It was good, but I was like, man, I would love to have seen, just one more round of that, and to see if somebody could have come back, or you could see people figuring out the strategy, but they ran out of rounds, and that's like if it's.
But most of matches were won convincingly, in a sense. Most of matches were 3-0 matches, right? And I think that's what made it shorter. If opponents were more balanced, then it would have gone till 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether adding one more.
You just don't want to go first.
Yeah. Yes. I admit I said already. I'll probably be done after the first few.
I wanted first to 5. You're lucky it's first to 4.
To bring him back a little bit.
Shoot him in the leg.
First to what? 3? Yeah, right.
Sure.
One of the reasons we've gone with that is we've seen a lot of the organisations have done these best of there were 6 rounds regardless sort of thing, and somebody will get to 4 wins or say 5. The result is already decided, but there's still rounds remaining, and they're just pointless rounds. And either they just stop and they don't continue, or they get up and just do a joke, mess around, goofy round, or the other, one of the guys who's already won just lays down, and it's like, this is completely pointless. Like, why have it this way? Whereas if it's first to 4, it's like you must get to 4 wins. You can be up 3-0, great. You've got to get to 4 before the match is finished. So it has a solidifying end to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. The
For
sport
people who are used to doing a lot of reps, as some of us present here are, that may sound like a fun idea.
First to
For
30.
those who are used to do more like sitting things.
one rep maxes.
1 rep maxes. Once per week.
Well, I mean, it's very much like currently, like the sports in this very interesting space where there's still being relatively new, although the rules have been codified in some respects. In others, there's a bit of latitude, and I guess different promotions are trying to find different ways in order to make the sport more watchable and more viewable, and obviously the more eyeballs and attention the sport gets, the more money that can come into the sport. And so ultimately, I think everybody's just trying to feel out different ways of making the sport more watchable. And I guess the extreme of that is when you watch some of the European competitions, and it's like watching a gridiron on a slow day. It's a really torturous kind of process, and micro fouls being called, and it's just, it might, for the purist, it might be completely fine and exactly what they're looking for. But for anybody that's on the fringes and just a casual spectator of the sport, I think it's entirely frustrating, very difficult for them to really connect with the sport when they see it portrayed in that way. So finding that careful balance is really where it's at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. And the organisation that gets it right first will start taking off, and that will become the model of, this is what we want to see. The audience attracting people from both sides. The people that are purists are satisfied with, this structure is close enough to what they wanted. But the people that are seeing the sport for the first time are entertained, and the rules are not just so complicated that they can't figure out what's even happening. So whoever finds that balance first, I think, will do quite well. And we are seeing that through King of the Table. You're seeing that with Arm God. Arm Gods has gone with different size pads. WAL back in the day had longer pads as well to try to prevent the elbow fouls. So there's different elements at play, and the first to 4, that's something Arm Gods is doing as well. And then you've got East versus West, where you might have 6 rounds, or you might have first to 3. But people are playing around with what the best formula is, and it hasn't been found as of yet.
And have you been following these other promotions over recent times, King of the Table and East versus West, and kind of tracking the progress of some of these athletes that have emerged over recent times?
Yeah, no, not exactly following, but no, I surely watch some videos from time to time, and you asked the question regarding sort of gradual development of arm wrestling, and almost in a sense its place sort of in society, and I think there is another thing which I think I've noticed, and when we started, it was really much more like competition focused. So what I've noticed recently is it serves another function, sort of community building place where you belong, and it's interesting. You see how lately you hear different contexts using familiar language. Let's say our arm wrestling family, our jiu-jitsu family, or our this and that. And I think as society sort of deteriorates and our relationships deteriorate, that's another function where all these social activities step in and sort of give a helping hand. And I think arm wrestling partly is one of those where this interesting combination, interesting mix. There is still this competitive edge. There is adrenaline, and there is a face-to-face interaction and battle. But at the same time, it's also very, very friendly community. And I imagine you being in club much more than I, you would see that it serves another function as well. And
I actually made this observation yesterday with somebody who we were discussing the high rates of depression and anxiety and suicide in men in particular, and I made the point I'd be really
8-9 every day.
How many?
8-9 every day in Australia.
8 or 9 men committing suicide every day, and which is
as
just
we sit and talk.
Which is just absolutely true. Maybe, hopefully not as a result of listening to this podcast. But
hope it's not alive.
Hope this isn't the straw that broke the camel back for anybody out there. But I made the observation that I would be really surprised if anybody in the club was to go down that path. And part of the reason being is that we've got a chat group on Facebook or Messenger, and all the guys that regularly attend the club, they're always in that chat group, and almost any time of the day or night you can pick that up and look into that chat group. There'll be a bunch of messages there. The guys are talking sometimes about arm wrestling, other times about just what's going on in their lives. Other times they are sharing some of their feelings and their situations, and some of them are struggling with things at the moment, but they've genuinely got the support or just a wise ass comment. But they've just genuinely got somebody there that at any time they could just jump in and know that there's going to be some level of support.
Sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, and it's not
that's enough just to have someone.
Yeah, and it's hard to see that if there wasn't the club for a lot of those guys, I don't know where else they might find that, because we're in an era where people don't attend church, or they don't have that church community. They become disassociated with those people that they knew at school, and their relationship with their family can often be fractured as well. And so for people to find that place of community that they can connect and feel at home with is a really special thing in this day and age.
That's why with the club, it's like immediately when Tim said that he wanted to step back a little bit and have me sort of take over a couple of things, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to give the club a name, and then so we've come up with the Titans, and then so if you're in the club, you are now part of this group, and it's like you're one of the Titans members, and it's like you're part of the club, and I've given everybody a nickname, and I make the videos, and anyone who has a match, they know I'm going to edit their video, and I'm going to put it out, and they can see it, and they can show it to all their friends and family, and they're part of something. And every time that they come in, it's the whole vibe of that club is very friendly, very welcoming. Everyone's showing each other how to beat each other, and it's insane. I was talking to Tom Uglesi about this yesterday, who's one of Australia's best referees in the sport, and we were saying, like, what other sport where you can literally have a match with someone, and then 2 minutes after the match you're showing them how you beat them and what they need to do to stop you from beating them. And how they can beat you. And it's like, what other sport would you ever see that happening? It's just a tremendous...
I was just making that point with some potential AWE sponsors this week.
Oh, nice.
Where that's the very collegial nature of arm wrestling, is that, you will naturally, in afterpool, share all your secrets, and it's part of it. It's like, as you mentioned, and what other sport is that happening? Where it's where the mateship or the connection is greater than the victory itself.
Yes, and it's almost like I feel sorry for the people who turn up for the first time, because they get about 40 different people's worth of this is how you do it. And everyone says something different.
They walk away confused,
going, God, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
I'm confused, but I better go back next Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. Because
but you were mentioning that was how you came to the sport in the first place, was because it was a community building exercise.
Yes. Yeah, no, I didn't say that, but
we like to say that you said that.
Yes. You were didn't you say earlier that you're the chap that was kind of getting it all started? He was doing it just to get people together. It was a...
No,
it started as
more
of a competition style to start with, but then over time it became.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But that element was definitely there, and it came about naturally, I guess. You guys were working together to try to support each other to get better at competition, but the byproduct of that is that it built a nice little community of people that were like-minded and getting together regularly to be able to train with each other and support each other and learn from each other?
So almost everything in arm wrestling is sort of counterintuitive. All the moves, right? People come and they initially want to do all those things, and you need to reprogram their brain. And actually, it's a very opposite. It's opposite direction and so on. But also another aspect is how we work together as a team, at a club. Again, naturally we would think, okay, I kind of need to get step higher to be this guy. But what happens if you focus in making everyone else better? You improve, you progress much faster together with them.
Yes.
So that team mentality and understanding is really what can lift club up or drag it down if that's a bunch of individuals just working for themselves. And
Exactly.
Yeah. And you don't really
and that's sort of contrary to it even again. We need to kind of teach people to think, to change your mindset, and it's not about you just pinning this guy in competition, or not competition, but in practice. And what you need to look at, okay, how do I contribute? How do I build this club up with the gifted talents that I have, and so we can all together move up. And
absolutely, yeah. One of the fun things is being able to get on the table with anybody of any skill level, and you can both learn from each other. So if I'm on with a beginner who's there for the very first time, and I'm explaining how to do a technique, I'm learning because I have to
articulate it and
articulate that technique effectively so that they can understand what I'm saying. And to be able to do that, I've got to think of, how do I actually do that? How do I get back pressure? How do I engage? Where do I put my elbow? And to be able to show them how to do it correctly. So in those elements, it's like you're breaking the skill down for yourself, and you're learning in those moments where somebody is doing it for the first time. So there is so much that people get from each other, and even when somebody might be in a lightweight class and they're going against somebody who may be 3 or 4 times stronger than them, and if they're in a competition, I mean, they're probably never going to meet in a competition, but if they were, then obviously this person would be a very heavy favorite. But you can work together on the table, and then you can be like, well, I felt strong when you did this and when you were doing that, and show me how you're doing a king's move, and you can actually sort of really gain skills from everybody that's there. Yeah,
unlike a striking sport, for instance, or a striking combat sport where you're only going to get hit in the head a little bit more than if you are training with somebody that's at a much higher level. But somebody new to the sport could jump on the table with you and learn a lot and not get hurt. Yeah. Maybe get hurt a little bit.
The feeling is if they
would have a sore elbow anyway.
Actually, I think it usually goes the other way around. When someone new comes and they want to kind of jump on you and push, and they wait for you to look other way around, and then they try to pin you. And oh, come on, man, I told you not to do this. And I think that may work that way as well. And
they see you as the unbeatable, and it's like, I wonder if I can actually pin him.
Let's wait for the moment he's distracted.
And do you ever work any of your arm wrestling these days into your own community building activities when it comes to your work within the church and sharing the good word? Has arm wrestling ever featured in any of those plans?
Middle of every sermon,
or should just stop and just
I think
call up the parishioners?
I think actually I once mentioned it in sermon.
Oh, nice!
I think I actually once mentioned it in sermon. Yes,
and then God began to arm wrestle.
No. So that was,
as it says in chapter 11,
the lost scrolls.
Oh, that was.
Thou shalt not try to flash pin with a press if thou is not conditioned.
I think that was after 2014 or 15 when Brett Coates and myself, we went to WAF World Championship and did quite well. So there was some videos circulating around. Maybe it was then or no. Actually, there was another funny story. I think it was after that event that some of Australian media learn about it, and they found it. Oh, that's kind of a very interesting story. Guy who is a pastor and in Barossa of all places, and he's also quite high ranked arm wrestler. So they came and did interview with me, and And then Sunrise, it's Channel 7 or 9, whatever. So that crew learned about that article, and they rang me and said, "Oh, can we do interview with you?" And yeah, sure. So they show up 3 people, cameraman and two others, and they spend the whole day. So they come to both of our services in morning in both congregations, spend the whole day with us in our home, and at the evening we hosted a training session. So they filmed the training session, and from all those many hours they put together like a 5 minutes, but it was really good 5 minutes, and it was shown on Sunrise.
Fantastic.
Yes, yes. That obviously sort of went far and wide, and
did any of your parishioners know beforehand that you were an arm wrestler?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Wasn't something you had to hide.
Yeah, but then when I shared this video on Facebook, people began to comment. "Oh yes, I know this guy. Oh, I'm from the same town where he lived. Or, oh no, I was in seminary when he was," and these sort of comments.
I used to be
and
him
then,
in training.
I am also Guntars from Latvia.
Yes, and then
Most commented.
and then good friend of mine, he made this precious comment. He said, "It's not that I know him; he also knows me." And so this was a part I mentioned in my sermon.
But you went on Channel 7, mate.
No. This was a part I mentioned in the sermon. It's not that we know about God, but that He knows you. He knows everything about you, and you matter. So in that context, I could bring arm's length into it. Just one of
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that is cool. Just like this guy in a backward village in Latvia knows me.
but you see, also another thing is whenever I've gone to any competitions or whatever, other guys know who I am, what I do. Almost every time we have good, meaningful, deep conversations about things that truly matter. And they can have this access to me, not when I'm dressed formally and you're scared to look that direction, but just at the table, after table, with a beer, and so that's I think could be answer to your question, and so here I am.
Yes,
accessible.
That's right.
You are.
You can ask the real thing, questions,
the real questions.
Those questions which we all have deep in, and often we kind of try to close our eyes and not look at them because the answers may be too scary.
Well, as you mentioned before, you grew up in the Soviet era and obviously an atheist state, and pursuing a lot of those questions was not supported, and there wasn't really anybody to turn to. So how did you find faith in that environment?
I didn't.
Okay, so it was. So
I'm not joking. I'm joking.
It was after the Iron Curtain had lifted. And
no. What I meant by that is, from Christian perspective, no one finds God, no one finds faith, no one chooses that path. No one chooses that path. It's God who comes to you. So He invades into your life. He turns everything upside down, and He makes Himself known, and He says.
And how did He reach you in that environment?
Usually happened through people.
And how did you recognise that it was God that was reaching out to you? Because if you're raised in an atheist society, how do you understand that that's God that's talking to you?
No, He wasn't directly talking in my head, or
He wasn't,
or there was no voice from heaven. It would be nice probably to hear. No, it would be scary. That would be really scary. So yes, it was obviously atheist country, and we did not have any Christians in my family nor extended family, but it was probably I was maybe grade 3, 4 in one of summers when I stayed with my grandparents. So my grandma took me by hand and come, I'll show you something. So she took me to her room and opened this shelf, and there was this thick, old, kind of big book, and she said, "This is Bible. Just you can read a little bit. Just don't tell anyone anything." And so I read first few chapters, book of Genesis, and still remember I was surprised about things which I read there, but not much else. But no, obviously I like to read a lot when I grew up. I would get spanked by my parents because I would stay secretly up during the night just trying to read something.
So she was literally a closet Christian. She had the Bible in the closet.
Literary,
She had it hidden away.
She wasn't.
I'll
She
say-
wasn't. No.
Yeah.
But that's to the extent that she was.
Yes.
But
So
she felt it was something important enough to share with you.
Yes. I don't know. I don't think. I'm not aware of her ever. So obviously she was born before World War II, before Soviet Union came and took over Latvia, and probably she was a member of church before that time. But during Soviet time, it would mean you would pay a price, often quite a heavy price for openly being a Christian, and so I really don't know answer to those. But then I love to read, and in different novels you would come across Christian themes, and the whole European culture, basically now the whole world it's saturated with influence of Christian faith, of Christianity, and so you would come across those things, and even if you don't come across them like, oh, this is God speaking to me, bits and pieces would stick to you, and we were. So as I was late teenage years when Soviet Union began to crumble and came down, and it was very interesting. I still don't understand that phenomenon, but when that happened, there was time, couple of years probably, when literally not on every, but on in many places there were tables where books were sold, and most of those books were different sort of religious, occult topics. So as teenagers, we were really curious. You are searching for those questions. So what is this world about? Is there anything else? Is there sort of invisible realm? Can you communicate? Can you sort of unpack your, I don't know, deep energies or connect to the universe and do all sorts of stuff? And we, as you can imagine, as teenagers, we were just fascinating and stick our noses wherever we could. And we did some stupid things. But one of my friends, so she happened to come across with a pastor, Seventh-day Adventist pastor, and got very kind of excited, invited me along, and I think he's the first Christian person I sort of spoke face to face, and he told me some strange things which were not true, like your stories when you tell about me. But so.
Everything we say is 100% accurate.
Okay.
So it's been fact checked by Hollywood McConnell.
That's right.
That's why the name Hollywood.
Everything's a fiction.
Guarantee of truth.
That's right. It's a stamp of authority.
Yes. So no. Anyway, that was a time of collapse of Soviet Union, and as you maybe know from history, it's a very interesting event. It wasn't like a military revolution or any of that. It basically was spiritual revival which brought it down, and it's interesting. You see, during those few years. Up to the end of 1980s, beginning of 1990s, church was sort of kept under the lid and as something that you will pay the price if you go that direction. And as Soviet Union came down, church were flooded. Hundreds and thousands of people just were thirsty. They were looking for something. And I happened to be among those people who were looking for something. And we all are looking for something. You can say that one way I like to speak about it is there are universal longings which are sort of built in us. We usually are not aware of them. We haven't sort of articulated what they are. But they are universal to entire humanity, to every nation, every person, every time and situation. And they are what drive our lives. And if we cannot put a finger on what they are, we may be wasting our lives in a futile way, trying to satisfy those longings where they cannot be satisfied. For example, we all want our lives to matter. We want to be look at them and say, yeah, there is significance for my life. I matter, at least for someone, for something. We want to wake up in the morning and say, yes, there is a meaning and purpose in my life. It's not just like, oh, one more day, how to survive. You want to have that energizing feeling that, yes, what I do, it has a purpose, and there's purpose for my life, and so on. You also want to feel secure in a certain way about your future. I think the ultimate fear is fear of death, fear of lacking, fear of death, but there is a sort of levels in between, and we can literally spend our lives trying to build that security for ourselves on our own. We want to belong, club idea. You want to be recognized. You want to appreciate it. You want to belong in some place and know that these are my people, and so you need a hope and so on. Those all are universal longings in our hearts. So what is different? Where people try to satisfy them, and be it significance or meaning or purpose or security, we by default we go to material things. I'll go forward with my career or get bigger salary or accumulate more wealth or this or that, and I will make a name for myself or fame or achievement in arm wrestling, and if I get to these titles that Guntars have, I'll have significance for my life. And so no, if you try to satisfy those longings in this world by worldly means, you may succeed getting there where you want to get, but when you get there, you will realize, wow, it's not here.
Mm.
And you see it from those scary stories from people who are super achievers, who get everything what they were hoping, and then they hang themselves because they were hoping, if only I will get there. So yes, moving to the gospel proclamation as it's fitting for this situation is answer is in true God. He is here to satisfy all those longings. He is here just waiting for everyone to satisfy those longings. We just don't believe it. We just don't believe it. We think about him as like that might be restrictive path. That may be something I'll need to sacrifice something, and that will be, I won't be able to do what I want or so on. Oh, that is rubbish. He's there just waiting for every person, saying, come to me, I'll give you rest. I will satisfy your thirst. I'll give you drink so much you will never thirst again. And so that was my sort of journey to, and I can talk about it a long time because this is it's so much good in it.
You can hear the passion,
and everyone needs it. You see, the thing is, there's a great quote by who was it? Christel Stendhal. I guess he was a dean of Harvard University, divinity faculty in Harvard University, and he said, our flourish. It's paraphrasing. It's not direct quote. He said, our flourishing is hindered the most, not by what we do not know. It's hindered the most by what we think we know. Oh. So when we have wrong ideas about something, that's what really kind of hinders our human flourishing. And from my experience of now 30-something years, it's people have the craziest ideas what Christianity is about. All of them are wrong. It just matters how much wrong.
Yeah. So your early exposure there was to a Seventh-day Adventist preacher, and how did Lutherans feature, and how did that come along for you?
Embarrassingly.
Oh, yeah. Even better.
yeah, just embarrass me. Okay.
Tell us your embarrassing moments.
It's funny, sort of. So we were a group of guys, same age, same passion, and one of them was the guy who was organizing disco for arm wrestling. So we came to faith at the same time, and not that we came to faith, but God sort of invaded our lives, and so this Seventh-day Adventist guy. He told something that stirred our energies up, and during that time, this time of revival, spiritual revival in Soviet Union, when Soviet Union was collapsing, there were several pastors who were very outspoken, so well known and really often on TV, and people recognized them well. And one of them was Lutheran pastor, and so the Seventh-day Adventist guy told, these Lutherans, they are just misleading people. They are not telling the truth, and their teaching is wrong, and so on. And so what did we do? We went to our provincial city, to the capital city, Riga, to meet that guy and tell him that he's wrong.
He's wrong.
So that's what we did. It took roughly 30, 40 minutes for him to change our minds. And
so he converted everybody.
Wow.
And send us back to our town to local Lutheran pastor, and so where we received more training, more teaching, and
well,
so
incredible.
that's how. Yeah. There's
Amazing.
no lack of arrogance here. So much humility. Just we'll go and tell that guy he's wrong.
And a very, very simple explanation.
Oh, yes.
For me, can you just explain what a Seventh Day Adventist is?
Adventist,
Adventist versus the Lutheran,
Faith.
Yeah. It's unfortunate reality, but probably by God's providence that when you look at Christianity as such, it's so divided, so incredibly divided, and so you have a big like so-called denominations. Denominations. The word comes from sort of naming them, and Roman Catholic Church, Orthodox churches, Greek, Romanian, Russian Orthodox churches. Then Anglican Church is another big group, and then we have sort of Protestant churches, that huge group of which just keeps dividing and multiplying, and sort of in the middle of those we have Lutheran Church. How to describe differences? I think differences for all those churches come from what is our supreme authority. So where do we look for answers? And let's say for Roman Catholic Church, it would be scriptures plus magisterium, which is a group of church leaders plus Pope. So that's their main authority. You look at Orthodox churches, it would be church's tradition, what church has taught, and it would be also scriptures. So for Anglican Church, it would be scriptures, it would be office of bishops and their confessions. But then you get to these different Protestant groups which emerge after 16th century and kept dividing. You can usually trace them back to one person who came up with this brilliant insight. Everyone before us was stupid. I got it right. Now just I figured it out and let's do it this way, my way. And that's how many of these new movements started then. Yeah. So one big thing for Seventh-day Adventists is Seventh Day. So they try to sort of stick with the Old Testament calendar and keep the Sabbath day on Saturday. And don't eat pork and stuff like that.
Some of the old Jewish traditions, though, that here too, claiming to be a little bit closer to the original faith.
The Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But there, for those people that do have questions around the different Christian denominations, there's a really good series on a YouTube channel called Useful Charts, where you can actually go through and you can see how all these churches came to emerge out of the Catholic Church and how they've all evolved since. And that'll be helpful, a helpful guide for anybody that's looking for a bit of a sense as to how the different denominations fit within the pantheon of denominations that are out there.
I don't know of that one, but there was a 10-minute Bible study, also a YouTube channel, 10-minute Bible study. But that guy, what he did, he actually made one more step. So he would go and interview representatives, pastors, let's say from each of those churches. Okay, tell you, not that I will be telling about your church, but you tell about your church, so we can get a first-hand testimony and the 10-minute Bible study.
And what were a few things that the minister shared with you in that conversation that convinced you? And
don't remember that.
Yeah, just the divine word. That was enough.
Yeah, he also was very charismatic person. That's also true, and very knowledgeable. Like Matt, yes. Just in church setting, and he wasn't doing this.
Well, he could. Yeah, he's missed out on that. Step one.
And you know, it's true. Path that we take, it's most of time for almost every one of us, it's much more shaped by external circumstances than by our choices. Sure, our choices have their place, but you can only choose as much, and so in a sense I was put on that pathway, but since that I've been studying a lot, I enjoy studying a lot. I could happily be a student forever if that was possible, and I'm very passionate also about my stripe of Christianity, if you call it that way, and which is Lutheran.
Well, very, very interesting that you've. Your light's just gone out. Very interesting that
the power. The power.
Now we can say, "Let there be."
But very, very interesting that you are raised in an environment of where there was religious persecution and discouragement, and then rose out of that, and then almost followed the path of the persecuted Lutherans of Prussia in migrating to the Barossa Valley, which, for those not familiar with local history or South Australian history, there was a huge migration. George Fife Angus funded the movement of entire Lutheran communities because of the persecution that they were experiencing at the time in parts of Prussia, and brought them whole communities over to settle in that part of the world that you came to preach in.
Yes. That's an interesting bit of history. I didn't follow their path, but I happened to end up in the same place. And
just happened to end up in the same place as a fluke of history.
You mentioned just before that most people get their view of what Christianity is wrong. What would you say that it is, in your opinion, or your view, or what are they getting wrong?
What are they getting wrong, or why are they getting wrong?
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
It's not. It's almost impossible, kind of, to answer it in a brief way. And I'll just give you an illustration.
Sure.
So one of not many people join church lately. That's true across Australia, across Western world. More people leave church than join, but still people join, and there are different reasons how they come across. And for example, I'll mention one of recent examples. It's kind of funny example, fits into our conversation. So young couple came to me and said, they would like to get married. And how did you find about me? Because they did not belong congregation. They sort of were not Christians at all. And they told the story that this guy read about me in newspaper, my arm's length pursuits. And he said, if I ever get married, I want this guy to marry me.
There you go.
So
wow,
when we were, hi John, that's about you. So when they and I usually used premarital preparation courses, sort of before you get married, we would meet several times and sort of try to give us as much wisdom as possible how to think about relationships, how to think about one another, how to go through different challenging times, and how to not have a pink glasses and don't expect what you will never get there, and just to make it sure people have a realistic view on what expect them. And so as we were going through those, every time I also try to give a little bit of kind of taste of Christian faith, and I sent them, and if you want to listen to my sermons, that's a link. So I said it and I forgot about it. A few months later, I kind of look at my SoundCloud account, and someone has listened almost like all my sermons during like 7-8 years. Who was that person? So I didn't know. Later, when I married that couple, the guy got in touch with me again, and he said he would like to continue, kind of learn more, because he has listened to all my sermons.
It was him.
And he said, initially when he began to listen, he would get really angry. He said he cannot explain, but he just would get really angry about the way Christian faith was presented and so on. But he couldn't stop listening. And anyway, why I brought this up? You ask what's wrong or why people get this misconception. So we spent a lot of time after that together, just learning biblical teaching and everything, and as much as I could share with him. And he said it's so interesting. He said he's one of those guys who reads heaps, just knows a lot and reads all the time, and listens to podcasts and stuff. And he said, I thought I knew pretty much what Christianity was about. He said, but now when we look at it and go through, I got almost everything upside down. Yeah. So one of ideas is often it's for good people. That's for those good moral people who want to live good and moral lives. And it's the very opposite. It's for every broken soul, for every person in misery, for everyone who knows they really are not good. They really are not good. And they are open actually to someone come from outside and say, in my eyes, you are good.
So even King's movers maybe?
No, I wouldn't go that far. No.
They're out.
There is grace is unconditional, but there is still kind of you need to draw the line.
They start smoking when they get near the church.
Well, how interesting that it was that piece on arm wrestling that ultimately ended up drawing him to the face.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. And you see, again, whatever we do in our lives, whatever happens in our lives, we never know what impact it has to others. So, for example, you do your shows and you know, okay, so and so many people watched it. What they took from it, what they learned, what that pushed them to do, how it put their life possibly on different trajectory, or you will never know. You may from time to time get some sort of glimpses and so on. And when I mentioned that sunrise video, okay, I know many people saw it, but then later I got some feedback, and those are just some feedbacks, where people use that as a conversation starter, saying, oh, this is funny story, you know, this pastor and so on, and just giving different flavor, different view at what Christian faith is about. It's not about boring old ladies. It may be about
double bicep
arm wrestlers. Yes.
Schwarzenegger.
Oh, friend of mine in seminary where I studied, he was a Nebraskan powerlifter champ.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
So we have different strange people. Different strange people from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Whatever background. Anyone who feels those longings could be possibly satisfied.
Yeah. Well,
Is ready to do that, then.
For many people, their lives come down to moments, and it seems that you have had that moment where you came in contact with that guy who was doing the discos is what you were saying. The discos. That's what I meant about the community.
Guntars,
Guntars of the discos.
Double Guntars.
So that's what I was referencing before with the community stuff. But so you met with him.
That was disco. That wasn't community. That was disco and money. You see, it's kind of
disco money.
It was the disco. It was music. There was arm wrestling.
Oh, at the disco, it was like a
adoration of girls.
Some community. That's community. So and then you've come in contact with that Seventh-day Adventist preacher. You've had that kind of glimpse, that moment where you've been shown the family Bible, and all of a sudden there's this whole tradition that may have been there that you never knew about. That's somehow part of your family that you've been disassociated from, and then you've had that exposure to your faith and to arm wrestling, and then that's just led you to follow a path that's been laid out for you to come to Australia and to become the AWE heavyweight champion. Ultimately, I mean, I imagine that's the apex.
Yeah, I think that's. I would always put almost in the same way. That's apex. That's apex. This is, you see, interesting way you put it. Sort of a very edifying way in a good way to teach. So we chose our identities often. So how we identify ourselves.
Well, Hollywood Matt Connolly even came up with Hollywood. I mean, himself, his own nickname.
Yeah, but that's only name. That's only name. That's only name. But if you would push him to say, okay, who are you? How would you answer the question? Who are you? Not giving a name or nickname or whatever, but who are you? Are you husband? Are you father? Are you son?
Are you biceps?
Are you what?
Are you biceps?
Are you biceps? Are you arm wrestling coach? Are you arm wrestling champ? Are you whatever? So for each one of us, there will be one identity which is most important one, and that will shape how you do everything else. So, for example, if arm wrestler is your core identity, then you will do everything as arm wrestler.
Yeah.
If husband is your core identity, you will look at everything else you do in your life as husband.
That's your dominant, your controlling personality over and above the
personality or
the
identity.
sub-personalities.
Yeah, whatever. And I think this is very unhealthy if someone identifies, if their main identity becomes arm wrestler. It's sort of sad because it doesn't deserve that place. It
also means you need oxygen tanks after 10 minutes on the table.
Exactly. So for me, main one is Christian, sort of child of God, heir of the kingdom of God, which shapes every other vocation So I ask question, so how can I as Christian live as a good husband, as a good father, as a good son? How, as a Christian, how do I approach to arm's length? So that identity shapes everything else I do, yeah. So I would say perhaps that championship title, maybe it's not the pinnacle. That's what I was going to say.
That's where you're going.
Yeah.
We do say it tongue in cheek. Most of what we say are jokes non-stop.
I know.
We identify as jokes. Yeah. That's our primary
Identity.
Personality.
Everything is through that. Yes.
It is funny though. We've had because I've gone through a lot of different things happen in the last couple of years in terms of different roles and opportunities and stuff that are being created as opposed to just being in a full-time job and seeing that as, say, you're a plumber or an electrician and you say, that's who I am. But for me, it was like, now I had somebody ask, what's your occupation? I was filling out a form, name, date of birth, occupation. And I was like,
what do I actually do?
I do like 30 things.
How do I explain this?
And he goes, which one is it? And I'm like,
Can I go with arm wrestler?
Yeah. It's fun that it's like, okay, there's so many different things happening that it feels for me right now that I would say I don't have like one thing that I identify myself and say, that's me. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of different things at once, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, one thing isn't dominating over the other, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important that people disassociate themselves from or are able to differentiate achievement from their own self-value. Yeah. That the self-value should always be there, and that the achievement, if for whatever reason, circumstances, favour you and you happen to have an accolade or a title or something, then wonderful, it's a bonus, but it shouldn't be all that you are and your purpose in life necessarily. It's not healthy long term for it to be your purpose in life.
It's interesting. Just this week I caught up with another friend and we spoke about those topics, sort of your self-value, your self-worth, and so on. And many struggle with those things these days, every day. Not only those days, not like there were golden age before, but many people struggle. And what psychologists can tell you, there is one factor which can transform your life incredibly. If you are at peace with the thought that you are good enough, that you know in your heart that you are good enough, you're precious enough, you are valued enough, etc. But that's where the advice basically ends. How do you get it? How do you get it?
Different
does
for everyone.
Does it change that you kind of keep repeating it yourself? Does it make you more valuable? Will it make you more valuable if you win arm's length championship, maybe for 30 seconds and so on? Where to get that value? What will give it to you? Because it has to be given from outside. And it has to be given from outside by someone whom you would look up. And in family situation, if parents raise it in you, that's a very good foundation. And again, from Christian perspective, it is God's view on you. When the Creator of everything looks at you and said, "You are precious in my eyes. You are good for me. You are good as you are, and I will transform you and make you the most beautiful creature ever." So if you have that, that kind of life goes easy. It doesn't, no. But at least your self-worth is grounded somewhere externally. You don't need to kind of generate it all the time by toiling and running and achieving and this and this and this and this. Being exhausted and never getting there.
Well, the perfect example that I always think of is Robin Williams, the actor.
Oh, yeah. Sad example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's so successful throughout his life. A stand-up comedian, incredibly successful worldwide, and then went on to star in TV shows, and then from there to movies as a comedian actor, and then he changed completely and went into a dramatic role in Good Will Hunting and won the Oscar for that, and had all this success and was loved around the world performing, and then ended up committing suicide. And it's like, he had all those amazing sort of, I guess, achievements, but it was still not enough for him. And he did talk about his battles with depression a few times throughout his life, and drug addiction and that sort of thing as well. But I think that there's a clear message of fulfillment was never reached, and he always was, okay, if I've won this or I've done this, what's the next thing, and straight on to the next thing, rather than actually taking that moment and saying, I'm so proud of that, and I feel so happy that I got to this level, and feeling that fulfillment in that moment. It was immediately, what's the next thing? And you never get that reward for yourself. And it's like you've put all this time and effort into something, and it robbed yourself of the reward. And with Robin Williams. And another example was Pat Cash, the tennis player, Australian tennis player. Yeah. And he felt the same way with his career, and that he won, I think it was Wimbledon. He won Wimbledon, the tennis tournament. And he said that he won, he hit the winning point and, celebrated for 30 seconds or whatever. And then he went over and hugged his coach, and he said, now let's win the US Open. Straight away. Within a minute, he was already on to the next thing. And he's like, I really regret the fact I didn't actually take the time to enjoy that victory. Yeah. So
Another person is Madonna. Oh yeah. So one of my favorite singers. Just love her songs, and so she said in an interview. So she has to create the next album. Mm-hmm. If she doesn't do, she immediately feels she's just an average, ordinary person. There is no value for her life. She has to create something new, something. So for a while, it gives her kind of motivation and drive and sort of illusion of satisfaction. 30 seconds later.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? And especially if you're getting rewarded for those things. Like if you are putting time and effort into something, and in terms of the financially rewarded or materialistically rewarded, that isn't really fulfilling. It's great, you've got money, or you've got attention, or you've got, social media fame, or people respecting you or whatever. But that isn't something that, for your own self-fulfillment, that you're like, okay, I've achieved that. And, regardless as to what it is, whether you've put time and effort into something and whatever the outcome was, you can respect the fact that you did something and you put effort into something, and whether it worked or whether it didn't work, you should feel like, I'm proud of the fact that I put my time and energy into that. Whereas if you're putting time and energy into something and trying to get the reward from other people's respect, or other people's or financial reward or financial gain, and it's like, well, that's not going to fulfill you when you get that, because it's like you'll get it and it won't feel that, like, and you have to try to chase it again to get something bigger. And it's almost better for people to, in a way, if they have that frame of mind, to not succeed, because then they're going to realize, well, okay, I have to find it some other way. Whereas if you are succeeding and you are continuing to win in a way, or whatever you're trying to do, but it's not fulfilling, and you continue in that path, you might go all the way through. And it's sort of Nikola Tesla sort of thing. He said that, his inventions ended up becoming obsessions, and they owned him. Like, he could not stop himself from working. Like, he couldn't put it down. He couldn't stop thinking about them. At every moment, it was all of his thoughts and time and energy were consumed by these inventions or these projects he was working on. He was not free to actually just do the things he wanted to do at that time, because, he was sort of getting on the brink of success at all moments, at all points of time. It was just on that edge of breaking through. But to be sitting in that spot for such a long period of time and never really making it, and it would be consuming.
Jim Carrey is credited to having said, I'm not sure whether he said it or no, but that he wishes that everyone would make it to the top, so that everyone can realize it's not there.
That's right.
It's not there.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we live in a world of materialism, and a lot of people are, for their only real point of reference is what they have, whether that be what they have in the bank, what they have in terms of personal possessions, what they have in terms of accolades or other people, rather than perhaps just feeling the love of God and feeling like that's the purpose, and being in service of other people is the real purpose. That's where you will find your greatest energy is usually when you're in service of others, when you're doing things that
I'm into that.
Are helping others. That's where the well of energy is. So for a lot of high achievers that feel low energy in that moment, after in the afterglow of achievement, it's usually because they were in pursuit of that achievement for their own personal ends, rather than being in service of a greater community or of even perhaps just the family and the people that are closest to them. It's quite the paradox, and it's a difficult thing, and I think it's part of the human condition that you work through those issues over time and find the very best ways. And of course, if there are people out there that have those questions and are trying to find those ways, I guess you're a great resource to be able to have a talk through those matters with.
Are you pointing to me?
I am.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Matt Connolly, maybe not so much.
You never know. But you kind of summarize it brilliantly.
Thank you.
I've
given it a lot of thought.
Yeah. Seriously, because what we are continually being told, chase your dreams, chase your happiness. The purpose of life is being happy, and so on. And essentially, it is like dog chasing your tail. You can never catch it. You see that, I caught it. No, it's not there. So when in fact, and I've tested in different audiences, I've asked people, so what gives you more satisfaction, more happiness, receiving or giving? Mm-hmm. And the answer, regardless of age or whatever, it's always, sure, giving. So you see, if our life is oriented that we appreciate that everything in this life is given to us, sort of giving Christian perspective, that your own life, your daily bread, everything that you need for this existence, your talents, people around you, and so on. So it's given as a gift. Your identity, your worth, your security, your meaning, purpose, it's given as a gift. You don't need to work for it. If that's your understanding, then you are free to focus on giving others, serving others with everything you have. And that's a recipe for happiness. That's a recipe for happiness. That's the recipe.
It's a remedy for depression.
Yes.
It's a remedy for depression. It's the neuro pathways will hook up differently. It's just the difference between hot and cold taps. They're both taps, but they give dramatically different results. I guess turning matters to.
Can I make one final point on that?
Would you like to make a final point?
I can make it before we jump on to the wrapping up side of things. Yeah. I liken a lot of things to UFC, as you would know. But when
so Matt's spiritual journey began in 1994 at UFC 1. At UFC 1 and Hoist Gracie and anyway.
When you were talking about that pursuit that has an individual that is trying to get everything for a materialistic purpose or reason, and they're doing it for their own, of their own.
You see what the reason they are doing it is they are not actually chasing those material things. They hope that those material things will help to satisfy those built-in longings, but we are not aware of that.
Right.
So we are chasing wind. We are chasing something that we are just the wrong direction.
But with the UFC, and this is where I was sort of heading with that, is that the fighters, when they're about to have the fight, they'll do like a pre-fight interview or something like that. They'll play a couple of little minutes of this person's opinion of why they're going to win, what they're doing it for, and then their opponent, how you whatever. But the guys that say that they're doing it for their family, they're doing it for their country, they're doing it for somebody else, they get beaten. I will always bet against them because the other person that's doing it for their own, trying to desperately find, they have everything wrapped up in that, and they will give it everything because they think that that's where the answer is. Whereas the other person that has the family, has the country support, that's where they're getting their benefit from that. They have the fallback in a way of support.
I often feel like that's almost disingenuous when people say that, because I think some people are just very conscious that there's been an enormous amount of energy placed on them individually in order to perform, and so they feel almost as though they're not deserving of that attention and that energy, and so say, okay, I'm actually doing it for all of these people that are actually helping me, because that's the emotional response, in that they almost feel like I'm not deserving to get all of this attention,
to sports
energy.
That's a good wisdom for betting, I guess.
Yeah. Some good insights, some betting insights.
But that I'll tell you, nine times out of 10, it'll come true.
Okay, so watch out for the pre-match interviews at AWE too.
If you're doing it for someone else, you'll get beaten.
There you go. Well, so AWE2 coming up next, of course, you're defending the title. So you're our inaugural champion and the first heavyweight champion to defend the belt. Naturally, you would have caught a glimpse of Marcus Itirai at AWE1. Did you have a chance to grip up with him on the tables afterwards in the afterpool?
No.
So you've never gripped up with Marcus previously?
I think we gripped up in 2017 or 18. I think we actually met in finals in Australian Championship finals, and yeah, that's the only time I can remember. I shook his hand. He's kind of enormously huge hand. It feels so good. It's
170 kilos.
He checked on another 5 kilos in preparation. So he was already at 165, and he felt the need. He felt an extra 5 kilos was going to make the difference.
Change the game.
And you'll be. Are you? How's your weight? Because you're hovering around that 123, 125, 127,
25, 27. Yeah.
Just sitting there. So no differences in your physicality.
No, I thought kind of getting up to 65, but then I realized probably it's not going to work.
We might need to get some oxygen.
I need all the new clothes and everything, and it's too expensive.
And does anything change much in your preparation as you get closer to competition? Do you ease off the weights at a certain point, or do you stop your table time?
I mentioned that I really kind of like gym training, but gym training, you see, I have a different kind of thought about gym training when it comes to arm wrestling, and I've mentioned it I try to mention it as often as I can. When I go to gym and I train for arm wrestling, I do not train muscle groups. I do not train exercise, sort of. I try to create a way of training, imitating movements that I will use in arm wrestling on table. So that's how my brain works, and so I think, okay, how can I imitate something resembling this, something resembling that, and so that's my focus in gym. And I actually tried something new this time for this match, and exercise I've never done before. So I'm not sure. Will it be?
Is this something you've learned on the internet, or is this something you've developed yourself?
My friend Leon suggested it to me. I've never done it. I can tell you what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want Marcus to play? He might be watching.
Yeah, Marcus.
Don't just turn it off now.
Be honest. Don't listen to this. No, but that's such a genius idea and such simple. I wonder why I never haven't thought about it. So. One of exercises you do a lot for arm wrestling, pull-ups, right? But when you get on table, do you do your pull-up?
Not really.
No. What do? You do your holding.
Yes.
Right? Now think about pull-ups, but just in a negative way.
Yeah.
So that you actually hold in your position, but you hang on weight on you and try to hold it in that position. So
it's a static hold.
Yes.
So it's more isometrics.
I've never done it before. It's so much fun. And
have you seen your times rise as you practiced at it as well?
Yeah, probably during this couple months, 15, almost 20% in weight, which I use for it. And I'm not sure how it will translate on table or not. I don't know. But have you it's been fun training.
Have you seen that translate into increased reps when you've gone? Have you reverted back to rep training just to see if it's made a difference? I haven't
reverted back to
training. Okay, well, maybe something for after the competition then. Very interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting if people start seeing Marcus all of a sudden hanging around
170 kilos he's got to hold as well now.
That's right.
Look, he obviously, he's built differently, and what works for one person may not work for another person, but I found it kind of very, very, that's what kind of, I get a kick out of creating this new exercise. Yes. Every time saying, I haven't done this, okay, can I try this?
And will you relax on doing that type of movement a week out or 2 weeks out?
2 weeks out.
2 weeks out.
And stop everything 2 weeks out.
You stop everything.
Yeah. And I'll probably do some bike ride or light gym training or aerobic so I don't die after third. So I can make the fourth. Too much.
And so it's all basically just recovering and making sure you're in good shape and you don't have any niggles coming in. So if you haven't done a lot of weights...
That's probably niggle. That's the main reason. So you don't go to the table and you are not worried, okay, if I do this move, it will hurt. So to be free from pain. So that would be sort of my primary hope.
And we were talking to Todd Hutchings last week, and he was mentioning that before he gets to a competitive table, he would have warmed up and almost gone to 90% on a 1 rep max on a certain movement to emulate that first hit. Is there any? Do you come in cold, or do you come in warmed up with lots of blood in the muscle through high reps, or do you also kind of go in for one of those 1 rep maxes before you stand next?
You mean
to
on the competition day?
On competition day.
Oh, I usually try to warm up, just a general body warm up, and before comp, sort of all the joints and
yeah,
so they function well, and pray that it holds together.
And when you're at your level, and in South Australia, you know you're very much head and shoulders above the regional level of competition. So how do you get table time? Are you just training your lads up to be competitive, basically? You're just breeding your training partners now,
yet,
or
not
no?
Yet. Before AWE1, I spent some time with Lasny Bottas training, and we'll probably do the same now. And no, we are different weight categories, but yeah. Anyway, it's
Just to get the feel.
Yes.
Yeah. And to be able to get some work.
I don't have a great endurance, so he can wear me out quite quickly and get pumping like, oh no, let's go.
That's good. So, any particular strategies moving into AWE2? Any thoughts that are hovering in your mind as you get closer and closer to the big day?
Oh, mainly, yes. If I can be in a painless, that's main thing. So now, otherwise, your brain sort of switches off and like, let it go this way. So we're scared to do certain movements or certain angles, or that's why those 2 weeks are kind of really crucial. And be gentle. I'm an old man.
with Marcus having the technique available to him that he's quite good at in the King's move. Have you come across many King's movers at all?
No.
No.
We'll see. Maybe he will be. Maybe that's his key.
Oh, yeah. It's an interest. What do you think about the move? Because there is a lot of controversy about it, whether are people that don't like it or people that think that, from one extreme, people just say it's outright cheating. They hate it to death. Other people say it's a fair and legal move.
Yeah, no, as long as you have at least one of shoulders above the level of table, I think that's within rules. And
And Marcus seemed to be almost defensive, especially early on in his matchups, where he would almost catch and then pull through his opponent.
With such a big palm, you can do that.
Yeah,
the octopus takes around, and no
does
one's going to run away.
Does his physicality remind you of any previous competitors that you've come up against in his style and?
Yeah, usually when you go to Europeans or world, WAF Europeans and world, there will be huge guys and 150, 200 kilograms. And not necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily get to the top. So that's. I think with a bigger weight, generally, with a bigger frame, bigger weight, it's more difficult to extract your maximum. So your sort of pound per pound strength.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think the heavier you get, the harder it is to extract it.
Yeah.
And
it's because you're sort of crowding yourself in a way. Your chest may be preventing you from getting into the positions you need to get to, or your shoulder and the size of your bicep.
Do you feel like there's an optimal size for a super heavyweight then?
I don't know.
It's 125 kilos.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's about 125 kilos and 6'4". Well, they call the Latvian model.
Yes, former Latvian model.
Former Latvian.
Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the man. He is going to be part of the action at AWE2. That's at the Adelaide Oval, July the 2nd, July the 1st, if you're in the US and watching on the pay-per-views, which you'll be able to access on Ryan Blue Bowen's channel, as well as others. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for our ticket announcement. So that'll be coming very, very soon as well. So you'll be able to buy tickets and VIP access so that you can jump into into the after pool with some of the AWE superstars, including Guntars, and test your mettle and see how you might well fare against some of the world's best and even some of the former Latvian champions as well. So certainly join me in wishing Guntars Baikovs all the very, very best at AWE too. And sir, we'll look forward to seeing the strap on your shoulder again in just a month's time.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Wishing you all the very best. And to everybody that's out there, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll look forward to bringing you more next time.
Thanks a lot.